What's up, guys? Jason here with the Running Secrets channel, and I'm coming at you with another video, how to break 3:45 in the marathon. We're going to go over all the exact tips, tricks, strategies, everything you need to smash that 3:45 barrier in the marathon. So let's dive in and let's do this. Like I said, this is how to run a sub 3:45 marathon. But before we dive in, share with me, what is your marathon PR? I love helping you guys out. It gives me tons of great feedback, and I'm able to figure out what videos to post next. So in the comments down below, type in your marathon PR. And most importantly, if you are ready to smash that PR this summer, be sure to smash that subscribe button, hit that like button down below, share it with your friends, help me grow the channel, help me spread the love so we can continue to help runners all around us. So like I said, this is how to run a 3-hour and 45-minute marathon. So for starters, that's about 8:34 per mile, or about 5:19 per kilometer. Now, if you want to get under that 3-hour and 45-minute barrier, you're going to want to run a little bit faster than that 8:34, 8:35. But if you were to run perfectly even splits, in a 5K, that'd be 26:40. In a 10K, it'd be 53:20. Or in a half marathon, it'd be about 1:52:30. Now, to smash that 3:45 mark, there are 3 key training components you're going to want to remember. First and foremost are easy runs or easy mileage. Now, easy run and easy pace is very subjective. One of the most common questions I get on this channel is, well, what is my easy pace? Well, good news, that is up to you. I always tell people your easy pace should be conversation pace, meaning that if you are running with someone, you should be able to carry conversation with them and not feel like you're sounding like this as you're running. So the majority of your runs should be at that pace. The more time you spend running easy, the more mileage you'll be able to increase as you continue to run, building up in that marathon, or for that marathon. Second, you're going to want to remember marathon pace workouts. Now remember, to run a sub 3:45, you're going to want to go around 8:34 per mile, or about 5:19 per kilometer. And lastly, and this is something that's very overlooked amongst all distances, but specifically marathon running, is you want to add strength training. Now, a lot of people think to run a marathon that means simply just running more miles. And there is some truth to that, but that's just one piece of the puzzle. The more you run, the more repetitive motion you're going to have on those legs and in that body, the more likely you're going to be injured. So if you start supplementing strength training and adding things that focus on power, not just the repetitive motion of endurance, you'll be able to prevent injuries and get stronger and faster as you go. Now, I'm not saying go to the gym. I'm not saying, go lift tons of weight. You could do simply body weight workouts. So for example, you could do hip and core workouts where you simply do, planks and bridges and side lunges and all these different things that focus on just the functional movement, but also the strength of your own body. Again, I'm not saying go to the gym, go get a gym subscription or anything like that. Doing just body weight workouts is enough. Another common question I get is, what should my weekly volume be? Well, again, that depends on you as a runner. Now, most importantly, if this is your first marathon and you're shooting for that 3:45, versus if this is your 50 marathon and you're shooting for that 3:45, your ability to handle your training volume is going to be a little different. So the number of years that you've been running is a key component in figuring out what your volume should be. Another question that I often ask is, what has been your average volume over the last 6 months? No, marathon training is very step by step, brick by brick. So if you're just going from scratch straight to marathon training, you're going to have a little different training plan than someone who has been running half marathons, 10Ks, even other marathons leading up to this training block for this 3:45. Kind of going with that too, your injury history is a really important factor. If you're very prone to injuries when you start increasing mileage, you're going to want to adapt and start doing some other things like strength training and focusing more on your body's ability to handle the load. But most importantly, as a good rule of thumb, I would say if you want to run a marathon and feel good doing it, you're going to want to run at least 40 miles a week. And that's minimum. Now, if you're not at 40 miles a week, build up to that point before you start the training plan. If you're already running 40 miles a week, great, keep building on that plan. I don't want to say the more miles you run, the better off you'll be, but a lot of times increasing your mileage, even by just 5 and 10%, can yield great and positive gains. Now, I typically recommend shooting for at least 50 miles if you're serious about going for a goal time, at least with the marathon. 50 miles is a good kind of benchmark moving forward. Now, again, that's not for everyone. People have different time restraints, and I know before everyone blows blows up the comments about saying 50 is not the right number. Listen, running is very subjective. There's a lot of different ways to train for things. And so by finding what your body can handle, you'll be able to run better, smoother, and stronger. Deal? Deal. So how many days a week should you be running? Again, with marathon training, it's all about consistency. It's all about step by step, brick by brick. So realistically, you should be running at least 4 days, typically 5 to 6 days. But if this is your first go at a marathon or you're just trying to really improve your time, I would say at least 5 days is a good goal to shoot for. Now remember, your consistency is where you're going to get the gains. Now, if you run 5 or 6 days one week and you only run 2 the next week and 3 the week after, you're not going to be very consistent in there and you're not really going to get the gains you need. You need to be doing week after week, day by day, hitting those times, hitting those miles, and that's going to help you get to that time goal. So, how long should the training block be? Again, this is dependent on where you're at as a runner. Now, if this is your first marathon, you're going to want a little bit longer of a training block. If this is you're a very seasoned marathoner, you could probably get away with a little shorter training block. As a good rule of thumb, 12 to 18 weeks is pretty standard when it comes to building up for a marathon, specifically when you're going for a goal time. So I would probably fall within that 12 to 18 week range. So, what should your weekly calendar look like? Well, each week will have some consistencies and some standard workouts and standard plans that you're going to do, or standard days of running, I should say. You're always going to want to have a long run at least once a week. Typically, you're going to want at least one day of a speed work day. You're going to want to strength train 2 to 3 times a week, and everything else should be easy. So if you're running 5 days a week, you should have one of those days of the long run, one of those days of speed work days. 3 of those days should be easy, and then there should be some good solid strength days in there too. Remember, easy pace is one of the best things to do to help you get ready for a marathon. So spend some time running easy. Make sure you get the strength training in there. Let's talk about the long run. Let's talk about the speed work a little bit. Now, part of my big head, let's move that out of the way. There we go. Okay, so a sample weekly layout, you're going to want maybe a harder day in the middle of the week as well as the end of the week. Now, for me, I typically do most of my running on Monday through Saturday. I usually take Sundays off. That's up to you what you want to do. But at least for marathon training, you're going to want to put a little bit of a gap between the speed day and the long day. Now, some examples of some solid speed work you can do. Remember, you're going to want to hit that marathon pace work. So you're going to want to go 3:35 to 3:40 pace. Again, 5:19 to 5:24 pace per, 5:25-ish pace per kilometer. So some examples of some really solid marathon pace workouts are doing a 3x2 mile or 3x3 kilometers, having a warm up before, going into that, and then going into a cool down. Again, you're targeting marathon pace, so you're just trying to focus on the pace to get you under that 3:45. Another good workout, and one of my favorites, is doing 4 to 6 1 mile reps and doing 5x2 kilometers and doing that at that marathon pace as well. Now, recovery time is always another follow-up question I get. When depending on the distance that of the reps you're doing, that's kind of the factor that determines your rest time. I typically err on the side of about 3 to 3.5 minutes for marathon pace recovery. Now, recovery for me is walking around or jogging around most of the time. If you need to walk, if you need to just stand, great. But always, always, always keep your watch running. Don't cheat yourself by stopping your watch and getting some extra minutes here and there. Stick to that recovery. It's going to help you in the long run. It may be hard to work out, but you'd much rather have a harder workout than a harder race. So how should I pace myself on race day? Well, there's some things that play a role in your pacing strategies. In this day and age where there's a lot of downhill running, that plays a huge factor. Your pace on a downhill course is going to be very different than your pace on a flat course or one that has rolling hills. So make sure you know the course, train for the course that you're racing on. So if you're running a downhill marathon, which there's a lot of nowadays, you're going to want to spend some time running downhill because your body has to adapt to that pounding. It has to adapt to that concentric and eccentric loading of the hamstrings and quads. You're going to want to get ready for that downhill. If you run just flat ground trying to get ready for a downhill race, no matter how many miles you run, your legs are going to be screaming at you by the end. And please take my word for it. I live in a place where there's a lot of hills and there's a lot of downhill races. You have to train for the downhill if that's what you're doing. Another key thing is remember the weather. Now, Again, try and train in conditions that simulate your race day. Now, I know that's not always easiest, but if you're running in a very humid climate and then you're going to run in a very cold climate, make sure you adapt accordingly. Just like if you're running at sea level and you're going to race up at elevation, make sure you adapt for that too. Humid weather is one of the worst weather conditions to race in. Your body just doesn't cool down as fast and your heart rate tends to go up. Usually, humid days are suffer days, and I know from experience living in Florida for a long time. So just be prepared. Make sure you adjust your pace accordingly. Another thing, kind of going off of that, is make sure that your nutrition and hydration is on point. Please, please, please practice your nutrition and hydration before race day, weeks before race day. Figure out what works for your stomach, what works for your gut. Make sure you're comfortable either if you're carrying water or you're going to pick water up from tables. Please, 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 please practice and get ready for that. Lastly, recognize how you feel. If you're feeling really good, make sure you don't go out too hard and you're hammering the pace because oftentimes they'll come back to bite you in the butt later. So recognize how you feel, adapt accordingly. But my biggest piece of advice with all of this is train like you race and race like you train. It doesn't matter how much preparation you put into it. If you're not preparing with the goal of that specific race, it's maybe good preparation, but it's not really going to give you that 100% accuracy that you want. So simulate conditions, simulate nutrition, simulate hydration, wear the racing shoes every once in a while. Do everything you can to get ready for that race. I know if you guys do this, you guys are going to smash that PR. I've helped loads of people hit those PRs. I'm super excited for all of you to get racing this summer and go smash those PRs. Again, if this video has helped you in any way, smash that thumbs up button. We are on a mission to help as many runners out as possible. We have helped people all over the world run faster, run smoother, run better. And that is one of the great running secrets out there. So hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button, and we'll see you in the next video.